Waitress mistakenly spilled champagne on the millionaire. He stood up angry and humiliated, barked for scissors immediately which was brought to him, and shaved her head for fun in front of everyone. Then the doors opened, and her husband walked in. The quiet, powerful man who funded the entire event. What the room didn't know, he never forgives, and he always protects what's his. Before we dive into this story, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. This story is going to shake you to your core, so smash that subscribe button, because you do not want to miss what happens next. Isabella Chen's feet were screaming. She'd been working the Roosevelt Grand Ballroom for 7 straight hours, serving champagne to Manhattan's elite at some tech mogul's charity auction. Her black uniform was pressed, her hair pulled back in a neat bun, her smile professional despite the exhaustion eating through her bones. She was 26, working 3 jobs to help pay her younger sister's medical bills, and tonight's event meant an extra $300 she desperately needed. Table 14 needed refills. 6 men in suits that cost more than her car, their voices loud with alcohol and arrogance, their laughter sharp and cruel. She recognized the man at the head of the table from business magazines. Preston Vale, 32, CEO of Vale Technologies, worth $800 million, famous for his hostile takeovers and his even more hostile personality. Isabella approached carefully, champagne bottle balanced perfectly, her practiced hands steady despite her exhaustion. Mr. Vale thrust his glass toward her without looking up from his phone, like she was furniture, like she didn't exist. She poured carefully, the golden liquid streaming smoothly until someone at the table told a joke and bumped the table hard. The champagne splashed over the rim, cascading down Preston's custom-tailored suit, soaking his shirt, his pants, his fury. The table went silent. "Oh my God," Isabella gasped, grabbing napkins immediately. "I'm so sorry, sir. Do you have any idea what you just did?" Preston shot to his feet, his face purple with rage. "This suit is worth $15,000. Isabella's hands shook as she tried to blot the champagne. "Sir, I'm terribly sorry. It was an accident. I'll get the manager." "An accident?" Preston's voice boomed across the ballroom. The orchestra stopped playing. Conversations died. Hundreds of eyes turned toward them. "You just destroyed $15,000 worth of Italian wool because you're too incompetent to hold a bottle properly." "Sir, please, you can what?" Preston grabbed her wrist, squeezing hard enough to bruise. "Pay for this." "With what? Your tips?" His friends were laughing now, phones out, recording, capturing Isabella's humiliation for their entertainment. Tears burned Isabella's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "I'll pay for the cleaning. I'll work extra shifts." You'll do more than that," Preston snarled. "Someone get me scissors. Now." Isabella's blood ran cold. "What?" "I said get me scissors," Preston roared. "This incompetent waitress needs to learn what happens when you disrespect your betters." "Mr. Vale, please," Isabella tried to pull away, but his grip was iron. "This isn't." A waiter appeared with scissors from the kitchen, his face pale, his hands shaking as he handed them over. Preston grabbed the scissors, and Isabella screamed. "No, please. I'm sorry. I'll do anything." Too late for apologies, Preston grabbed a fistful of Isabella's hair, the neat bun she'd spent 20 minutes perfecting that morning. He yanked her head back violently. "Let's see how pretty you look without this." "Stop." Isabella sobbed, but nobody moved. Nobody helped. They just watched, phones recording, capturing every second of her destruction. Preston opened the scissors and started cutting. Long strands of black hair fell to the marble floor like dying birds. Isabella felt each cut like a physical wound, her dignity being stripped away chunk by chunk, while 300 people watched and did nothing. He wasn't careful, wasn't gentle, just hacked away at her hair, leaving jagged, uneven patches, making her look destroyed, making her look broken. Tears streamed down Isabella's face as her hair, the hair she'd been growing for 5 years, fell around her feet in terrible piles. Preston laughed the entire time, performing for his audience, for the cameras, for the cruelty of it. "There," he said finally, releasing her so roughly she stumbled. "Now we're even. Your hair for my suit. Fair trade." Isabella stood there shaking, her hands flying to her head, feeling the jagged destruction, feeling the shame burning through her like acid. The room was silent except for suppressed laughter and the clicking of phone cameras. She wanted to disappear, wanted to die. Wanted to, the massive ballroom doors opened. The sound echoed through the silent room like a gunshot. A man walked in, and the energy shifted immediately. He wore a black suit that fit like it was sculpted onto his body, his dark hair perfectly styled, his presence filling the entire room without him saying a single word. He moved with the kind of quiet power that made billionaires step aside without thinking, that made security guards straighten their spines, that made the air itself feel heavier. Isabella's breath stopped. Luca, her husband, walked forward slowly, deliberately, his dark eyes scanning the room until they landed on her. On her tears, on her destroyed hair, on Preston Vale still holding the scissors. For 5 seconds, nobody breathed. Then Luca Moretti crossed the ballroom floor, his footsteps echoing on marble, and the crowd parted like the Red Sea, instinct screaming at them to get out of the way. When he reached Isabella, he didn't speak, just removed his suit jacket with careful movements and draped it over her shaking shoulders, covering her, protecting her, claiming her. "Stand up, amore mio," Luca said softly in Italian. His voice was gentle, loving, terrifying. Isabella stood on trembling legs, and Luca guided her behind him, placing his body between her and Preston like a shield. Then he turned to face Preston Vale, and the temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. "You just made a mistake," Luca said quietly. His voice didn't rise. Didn't need to. The threat was clear in every syllable. Preston's cocky smile faltered. "Look, man, I don't know who you think you are, but this waitress, she's not a waitress," Luca interrupted, his tone still soft, still deadly. "She's my wife. And you just assaulted her in a room that I own, at an event that I funded, in front of cameras that will make you famous for all the wrong reasons." The color drained from Preston's face. Luca smiled, and it was the most terrifying thing Isabella had ever seen. "You like cutting hair?" Luca asked conversationally. "Let's see how you like it when someone takes something precious from you." He pulled out his phone and made one call. Within 60 seconds, 6 men in black suits entered the ballroom, moving with military precision. "Security," Luca said calmly. "Escort Mr. Vale and his associates out, and make sure every camera in this room captures their faces." "Wait," Preston's voice cracked. "You can't just—" "I can do whatever I want," Luca said, his voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried through the entire ballroom. "This is MY City. My event. My wife. And you, Mr. Vale, just declared war on the wrong family." The security team moved in, gripping Preston's arms with professional efficiency. Preston tried to resist, tried to pull away, but these men were professionals. "Let go of me," Preston screamed. "Do you know who I am? My company is worth hundreds of millions. I'll destroy you." Luca's expression never changed. "You're worth 800 million, he said calmly. "I'm worth 6 billion. Your company develops software. My family controls ports, shipping routes, construction unions, and half the city council. So please, Mr. Vale, tell me again how you're going to destroy me." Preston went silent, the reality crashing down on him like a building. You're Moretti," he whispered. "Luca Moretti. The ghost of Manhattan," Luca finished. "Yes. And you just cut my wife's hair for entertainment. So now, Mr. Vale, I'm going to cut everything you love. Starting with your company." Security dragged Preston toward the exit, his protests growing desperate, his friends suddenly very interested in anything except helping him. The ballroom remained frozen. Luca turned back to Isabella, his dangerous mask disappearing, replaced by the man she loved. "Let's go home," he said gently. But Isabella saw something in his eyes. Something dark. Something final. This wasn't over. This was just beginning. And Preston Vale had no idea what was coming for him. Outside, as Luca's driver opened the car door, Isabella touched her destroyed hair and started crying again. Not from pain. From shame. From the humiliation that would never leave her. Luca pulled her close, holding her while she sobbed. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I ruined your event. I embarrassed you. You have nothing to apologize for," Luca said fiercely. "Nothing. What happened tonight wasn't your fault. It was his. And Isabella, I promise you this. By the time I'm finished with Preston Vale, he'll wish he'd never been born." There was something in his voice that made Isabella shiver. Not from fear of him, but from fear of what he was about to unleash. Luca Moretti wasn't just a businessman. He was the head of the Moretti crime family, one of the 5 families that controlled New York's underworld. The town car pulled up to their penthouse in Tribeca, the building Luca owned through 6 shell companies, where their entire floor was a fortress of security and luxury. Isabella sat in silence, Luca's jacket still wrapped around her shoulders, her hands trembling in her lap. Every time she touched her head, felt the jagged, uneven patches where her hair used to be, fresh tears came. Not just from vanity, from the public violation, from 300 people watching and doing nothing, from the phones recording her destruction for the world to see. Luca hadn't spoken during the ride, just held her hand, his thumb tracing circles on her palm, his jaw so tight she could see the muscle twitching. When they reached the penthouse, he guided her inside with gentle hands, sat her on the couch, and disappeared into the bathroom. He returned with a first aid kit. "Your wrist," he said softly, kneeling in front of her. Isabella looked down. Purple bruises were already forming where Preston had gripped her, finger-shaped marks of violence. She hadn't even noticed the pain until now. Luca's hands were impossibly gentle as he applied ointment, wrapped her wrist in soft bandage, his touch reverent like she was made of glass. But his eyes were murder. "I'm calling Marco," Luca said, standing. "No," Isabella grabbed his hand. "Luca, please, don't do anything crazy." He looked at her, really looked at her, taking in her destroyed hair, her tear-stained face, her bandaged wrist. "Too late, amore," he said quietly. "It's already done." He walked to his office and closed the door. Isabella sat there shaking, knowing that on the other side of that door, her husband was making calls that would destroy lives. Knowing she should feel guilty, knowing she should try to stop him. But all she felt was a terrible, burning desire for Preston Vale to suffer the way she was suffering. In his office, Luca made the first call. Marco, his underboss, answered on the first ring. "Boss, I saw the video. It's already everywhere." "How is Isabella?" "Alive," Luca said, his voice like icy. "Humiliated. Violated. But alive." Marco was silent for 3 seconds. "What do you need?" "Everything on Preston Vale. His company, his assets, his investments, his weaknesses. I want to know every business deal, every bank account, every person he's ever screwed over. And I want it by morning. Consider it done." "But boss," Marco hesitated. "This is going to be public. Very public. Vale's not some street dealer we can disappear quietly. He's visible. Taking him down means—" "I don't care," Luca interrupted, his voice dropping to a deadly whisper. "He put his hands on my wife. He violated her in front of cameras. He thought he could humiliate a Moretti and walk away laughing. So yes, Marco, this will be public. This will be messy. And when I'm finished, every billionaire in this city will know what happens when you touch what's mine." He hung up and made another call. Salvatore, his family's lawyer, the man who'd kept Morettis out of prison for 3 decades. "Sal, I need you to file lawsuits. Assault, battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress, everything. Against Preston Vale personally and Vale Technologies." "Luca," Sal said carefully, "I understand you're angry, but litigation takes time. We're talking months, maybe years before. I don't care how long it takes," Luca said. "I want him buried in legal fees. I want him spending every day in depositions and court appearances. I want his lawyers bleeding him dry. And Sal, make sure every filing is public record. I want the world to see exactly what kind of man Preston Vale is." Sal sighed. "I'll have the paperwork ready by tomorrow." "Good. One more thing. Find every employee Vale Technologies ever fired, every contractor they stiffed, every investor they screwed. I want witnesses. I want a case so airtight that Vale can't buy his way out." Luca hung up and made a third call. This one to someone whose name he never said out loud. A fixer. A ghost. The kind of person who could make things happen without leaving fingerprints. "It's me," Luca said when the line connected. "I need Vale Technologies investigated. EPA violations, labor law violations, tax irregularities, everything. Dig deep. Find the dirt. And when you find it, give it to the right journalists. The ones who can't be bought." The voice on the other end said nothing, just listened. "And one more thing," Luca continued. "Preston Vale has friends, business partners, investors. I want them all to receive a message. Nothing overt, nothing traceable. Just a quiet suggestion that continued association with Vale might be bad for their health." A pause. Then the voice said one word. "Understood." The line went dead. Luca made 7 more calls that night. To union bosses who controlled construction permits. To city officials who owed the Moretti family favors. To bankers who understood that sometimes loans got recalled for mysterious reasons. To investors who knew that certain stocks could be manipulated if the right people applied pressure. By the time Luca finished, Preston Vale's entire world was about to collapse, and he didn't even know it yet. When Luca finally emerged from his office at 2 a.m., he found Isabella standing in front of the bathroom mirror, staring at her destroyed hair. Tears streamed down her face as she tried to fix it, tried to make it even, but every attempt just made it worse. Luca's heart shattered. He crossed the bathroom and gently took the scissors from her hands. "Let me," he said softly. Isabella looked at him through the mirror, her eyes red and swollen. "You can't fix this." "Maybe not," Luca admitted. "But I can make it better." He worked carefully, gently trimming away the jagged pieces, evening out the disaster Preston had created. His hands were steady despite the fury burning through his veins. When he finished, Isabella's hair was short, a pixie cut that actually suited her delicate features. She touched it carefully. "It's not terrible." "You're beautiful," Luca said fiercely. "With long hair, short hair, and no hair. You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And what he did to you, what he took from you, I'm going to take everything from him." Isabella turned to face him. "I don't want you to become a monster because of me." "I'm not becoming anything," Luca said. "I'm just reminding people what I've always been. A man who protects his family at any cost." By morning, the video had 40 million views. Isabella's humiliation was trending worldwide. The headlines were brutal. Tech CEO attacks waitress at charity event. Billionaire shaves woman's head after champagne spill. But other headlines were starting to appear too. Mystery man defends wife at Manhattan Gala. Who is Luca Moretti? And then the one that made Preston Vale's blood run cold. Moretti family connection raises questions about Vale Technologies' safety. Preston woke up to 17 missed calls from his PR team, his lawyers, his board. His phone was exploding with messages. Emergency meeting. Investors pulling out. Sponsors demanding answers. Criminal charges filed. His father, the chairman of Vale Technologies, called him at 6 a.m. His voice was icy. "What the hell did you do?" "It was just a joke," Preston stammered. "She spilled champagne on me. I was drunk." "I didn't. You assaulted a woman on camera," his father roared. "And not just any woman. Luca Moretti's wife. Do you have any idea what you've done?" Preston's stomach dropped. "Who's Luca Moretti?" There was a long, terrible silence. Then his father said quietly, "We're finished, Preston. The board is calling for your resignation. Our investors are fleeing. 3 of our biggest clients just canceled contracts. And the Moretti family," his voice cracked, "they own this city. You didn't just attack some random waitress. You attacked the Mafia's queen. And now they're coming for everything we've built." Preston's world started spinning. That's insane. "We can fight this." "We can. There's nothing to fight," his father said. "Luca Moretti doesn't fight in courts. He doesn't play by rules. He just destroys. And son, you just gave him permission to destroy us." The line went dead. Preston sat in his penthouse, his $15,000 suit still stained with champagne, and realized he'd made the biggest mistake of his life. He'd humiliated the wrong woman, crossed the wrong family. And now, watching his phone explode with disaster after disaster, he understood. By noon, Preston Vale's life was disintegrating in real time. He sat in the emergency board meeting at Vale Technologies headquarters, 20 executives staring at him with expressions ranging from fury to terror. The company's stock had dropped 18% in 4 hours. 3 major clients had canceled contracts worth $60 million combined. 2 board members had already resigned. And the calls kept coming. Investors fleeing. Partners distancing. Sponsors pulling funding. "Mr. Vale," the CFO said, his voice shaking, "we've received notice that our primary banking relationship with Sterling Financial has been terminated. Effective immediately." "What?" Preston's voice cracked. They can, and they did," the CFO interrupted. "And Chase Manhattan just declined to renew our credit line. We're looking at a cash flow crisis within 30 days if this continues." "How is this happening?" Preston demanded. "It's been less than 12 hours. The room went silent. Then his father spoke, his voice like gravel and broken glass. "It's happening because you declared war on the Moretti family. And the Morettis don't just win wars. They erase their enemies from existence." Preston's phone buzzed. Another headline. Exclusive. Former Vail Technologies employees allege workplace abuse, discrimination. He clicked it. The article detailed 15 complaints from former employees. Harassment, hostile work environment, wrongful termination, all documented, all verified, all suddenly appearing in the press at the exact same time. This is a hit job, Preston said desperately. Someone's coordinating this. Yes, his father said flatly. Luca Moretti is coordinating it. And he's just getting started. Another notification. EPA launches investigation into Vail Technologies manufacturing facilities following anonymous tip. Then another. IRS announces audit of Vail Technologies tax filings from past 7 years. Preston's hands trembled as he scrolled through message after message, watching his empire crumble in real time. This is insane, he shouted. One incident. One stupid mistake, and he's trying to destroy my entire company? You didn't make a mistake, his father stood, his face carved from stone and disappointment. You committed assault on camera. Against a woman connected to organized crime. A woman whose husband controls ports, unions, construction, and half the city's infrastructure. Preston, you didn't just cross a line. You obliterated it. The board voted. His father delivered the news like a death sentence. You're suspended as CEO effective immediately. The company is distancing itself from your actions. You'll face the criminal charges alone. Wait, Preston's voice rose to a panicked pitch. You're throwing me to the wolves? We're trying to save the company you destroyed, his father said coldly. And son, from this moment forward, you're on your own. They left him sitting in that boardroom, alone, watching through the windows as news vans surrounded the building, reporters hungry for blood. Across the city, Isabella sat in their penthouse living room, her new short hair still feeling strange, watching the news coverage with a mixture of satisfaction and horror. Is it always like this? She asked quietly. When you decide someone needs to be destroyed. Lucas sat beside her, his arm around her shoulders. Only when they deserve it. Isabella looked at her husband, this man she'd married 3 years ago after a whirlwind romance. This man who'd always been gentle with her, but whose reputation preceded him like thunder. How far are you going to take this? As far as it needs to go, Lucas said simply. Until Preston Vail understands that actions have consequences. That you can't violate people and walk away laughing. That's some lines, once crossed, destroy everything. But what if it goes too far? Isabella asked. What if someone gets hurt? Someone already got hurt, Lucas said, turning to face her fully. You got hurt, Isabella. You were assaulted. Humiliated. Had your dignity stripped away in front of hundreds of people who did nothing. So forgive me if I don't have sympathy for Preston Vail's feelings right now. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it and smiled. Coldly. What? Isabella asked. Preston just tried to reach out, Lucas said. His lawyer sent a message. He wants to apologize. Wants to make this go away. He held up the phone showing the email. Mr. Vail deeply regrets the incident and would like to discuss a private settlement to resolve this matter quietly. Isabella's stomach twisted. What are you going to do? Lucas stood and made a call, putting it on speaker. When Preston's lawyer answered, Luca's voice was pleasant. Dangerous. This is Luca Moretti. I received your client's message. Yes, Mr. Moretti, the lawyer said nervously. Mr. Vail is prepared to offer substantial compensation to Mrs. Moretti for her distress. He's willing to make a public apology, and tell your client no. Luca interrupted, his voice dropping to IC. Tell him there's no settlement. No amount of money that will make this disappear. Tell him that what he took from my wife, her dignity, her sense of safety, can't be bought back. Mr. Moretti, please be reasonable, the lawyer pleaded. My client made a terrible mistake, but surely we can. Your client made a choice, Lucas said. He chose to humiliate a defenseless woman because he thought his wealth made him untouchable. So no, counselor. There will be no settlement. There will be no negotiation. There will only be consequences. But tell Preston Vail that by the time I'm finished, he'll have lost everything he values. His company, his reputation, his freedom. And he'll spend the rest of his life knowing it happened because he couldn't control his cruelty for 5 seconds. Luca hung up. Isabella stared at him. You really meant that? Every word, Luca confirmed. That afternoon, more dominoes fell. Vail Technologies lost its manufacturing permits in New Jersey due to suddenly discovered zoning violations. Their headquarters building failed a fire safety inspection that had been scheduled for months, but conveniently happened now. Three of Preston's closest business partners issued public statements distancing themselves from him. And the criminal charges, assault and battery, were officially filed by the Manhattan DA's office. Preston sat in his lawyer's office, his head in his hands, watching his life collapse. How do I make this stop? He asked desperately. You can't, his lawyer said bluntly. Preston, you assaulted the wife of a crime boss on camera. This isn't going away. This is your new reality. There has to be something, Preston begged. Some way to, the lawyer leaned forward. There's one possibility. If Mrs. Moretti agrees to drop the charges, shows public forgiveness, it might slow things down. Might. But given what you did to her, I wouldn't count on her mercy. Preston made a decision born of desperation. I'll go see her. Apologize in person. That's a terrible idea, the lawyer said immediately. Luca Moretti will. I don't care. Preston stood, his voice cracking. I have to try. I have to make her understand it was a mistake. That I was drunk and stupid, and you were cruel, the lawyer corrected. You humiliated her because you could. Because you thought you were untouchable. And now you're learning what happens when you're not. Preston left the office and made the worst decision of his life. He went to the Moretti penthouse. Security stopped him at the building entrance. Two men in black suits who looked like they could break him in half. I need to speak with Mrs. Moretti, Preston said. To apologize. To make this right. The guards didn't move. Didn't speak. Just stared at him like he was already dead. Please, Preston's voice broke. I just need 5 minutes. One of the guards spoke into his earpiece. Received a response. Then looked at Preston with something like pity. Mr. Moretti says you can come up. Preston felt relief flood through him. Hope. He didn't understand. Didn't realize. Luca wasn't granting him mercy. He was granting him one last chance to understand the magnitude of his mistake. Preston rode the elevator to the penthouse, his heart pounding. When the doors opened, Luca Moretti stood waiting. Alone. No guards. No weapons. Visible. Just a man in a black shirt and dark pants, looking calm. Dangerous. Inevitable. Mr. Moretti, Preston started. I know why you came, Luca interrupted. You came because you're desperate. Because your world is falling apart. Because you finally understand that money can't save you. Preston swallowed hard. I want to apologize to your wife. She's not here, Lucas said. I sent her away. Because what's about to happen, she doesn't need to witness. Preston's blood ran cold. What do you mean? Come inside, Mr. Vale, Lucas said, stepping aside. Let's have a conversation about consequences. And Preston, knowing it was a mistake, knowing he should run, walked into the penthouse anyway. The elevator doors closed behind him. And somewhere in the city, Isabella sat in a hotel suite Luca had booked, her phone off, not knowing what her husband was about to do. Not knowing that Preston Vale was about to learn that some apologies come too late. That some lines, once crossed, lead to places you can never return from. Preston Vale stepped into the Moretti penthouse and the door locked behind him with a sound like a coffin closing. The space was massive, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan, furniture that screamed old money and older power, art on the walls worth more than Preston's entire net worth. But all Preston could focus on was Luca Moretti standing 10 feet away, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. Drink? Luca asked, walking to a bar cart like they were old friends. No, Preston said, his voice shaking. I just want to apologize to your wife. And she doesn't want your apology, Luca interrupted, pouring himself whiskey. She wants to forget you exist. She wants to wake up tomorrow without remembering what it felt like to have her dignity stripped away by a coward. Preston flinched. I was drunk. I made it terrible. You were cruel, Luca corrected, turning to face him. Drunk doesn't make you cruel, Mr. Vale. It just removes the filter that usually hides what you really are. And what you are is a man who thought power meant you could hurt people without consequences. Luca took a sip of whiskey. How's your company doing? Preston's jaw clenched. You know how it's doing. You're systematically destroying it. Am I? Luca tilted his head. Or am I just exposing what was already broken? Those EPA violations, they were real. Those labor complaints, they were real. The tax irregularities, real. I didn't create your company's problems, Mr. Vale. I just made sure everyone knew about them. You're manipulating. I'm applying pressure, Luca interrupted. There's a difference. See, men like you operate in shadows. You exploit workers, cut corners, buy silence, bury complaints. You get away with it because you're rich and connected and nobody wants to challenge you. But when someone does challenge you, when someone pulls back the curtain, all your sins come flooding out. That's not my fault. That's yours. Preston's hands balled into fists. What do you want from me? I want you to understand, Lucas said, setting down his glass. That what you did to Isabella wasn't just assault. It was a message that said women like her, working women, normal women, they don't matter. They exist to serve you, to tolerate your abuse, to suffer your cruelty silently. Preston opened his mouth to argue, but Luca kept talking. And when you sent that message, when you cut her hair in front of 300 people who did nothing, you sent another message. That money makes you untouchable. That wealth is armor. That consequences are for other people. Luca stepped closer, and Preston instinctively stepped back. So I'm sending a message too, Mr. Vale. I'm showing every person in this city what happens when you forget that everyone deserves dignity. That everyone deserves respect. That money doesn't make you a god. It just makes you a richer target when you fall. I've lost everything, Preston's voice cracked. My company is dying. My reputation is destroyed. The board fired me. My own father disowned me. What more do you want? Lucas smiled, and it was terrifying. I want you to face criminal charges. I want you to stand in a courtroom and hear a judge tell you that assault has consequences. I want you convicted, sentenced. I want you to spend time in a cell understanding what it feels like to be powerless, to be at someone else's mercy, to have your dignity stripped away. You're insane. Preston backed toward the door. This is revenge. This is justice, Luca corrected. Revenge would be me having my people throw you off this balcony. Justice is letting the system handle you. Even though I own half the judges in this city and could make your trial a nightmare, I'm letting it play out fairly. Because I don't need to cheat to destroy you, Mr. Vale. Your own actions did that. Preston's back hit the door. His hand fumbled for the handle. Before you go, Lucas said casually, you should know something. That charity event where you humiliated my wife? I donated $5 million to that cause. Children's cancer research. Do you know how much you donated? Preston went pale. $2,000, Luca answered for him. The minimum required to get your name in the program. You showed up to be seen, to network, to feel important. While people like Isabella worked overtime serving champagne, to frauds like you who pretend to care about charity, but really just want tax deductions and photo ops. Get out of my house, Lucas said quietly. And Mr. Vale, when you're sitting in your cell, when you've lost everything, I want you to remember something. All of this happened because you couldn't control yourself for 5 seconds. Because you chose cruelty over decency. Because you forgot that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And in my world, when you hurt what's mine, the reaction is obliteration. Preston fled, bolted from the penthouse like the devil was chasing him. Maybe he was. He made it to the elevator, his hands shaking so badly he could barely press the button. The doors opened and he stumbled inside, gasping for air. Luca Moretti stood at the penthouse entrance watching him go. And just before the elevator doors closed, Preston saw Luca raise his whiskey glass in a mocking toast. The doors closed. Preston collapsed against the wall, his heart hammering, his mind racing. He'd thought he could apologize. Thought he could fix this. He'd been wrong. This wasn't something that could be fixed with words. This was systematic destruction. This was a man with infinite resources and zero mercy, teaching him a lesson that would last forever. When Preston reached the lobby, 3 police officers were waiting. Preston Vale? One asked. Yes, Preston whispered. You're under arrest for assault and battery. You have the right to remain silent. They read him his rights. Put handcuffs on his wrists. Led him out of the building where news cameras were conveniently waiting, capturing every second of his fall. Preston Vale, tech CEO arrested on assault charges. Billionaire faces criminal prosecution for charity gala attack. The headlines would write themselves. 3 months later, Isabella stood in the courtroom gallery watching Preston Vale get sentenced. The trial had been swift. The evidence overwhelming. Video footage. Witness testimony. Her own powerful account of the assault. The jury had deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. The judge looked down at Preston with disgust. Mr. Vale, what you did was an act of profound cruelty. You used your wealth and status to humiliate a defenseless woman. You treated her as less than human. This court sentences you to 18 months in prison, to be followed by 3 years probation, 500 hours of community service, and mandatory anger management counseling. Preston collapsed. His lawyer caught him before he hit the floor. Isabella felt Luca's hand find hers. She squeezed it tight. Is it over? She whispered. It's over, Luca confirmed. Vale Technologies filed for bankruptcy last week. Preston's fortune is gone. His reputation destroyed. And he'll spend the next year and a half understanding what it means to be powerless. Isabella nodded. She'd cut her hair shorter, styled it, learned to love the pixie cut that had been forced on her. She'd quit her waitressing jobs. Luca had insisted. Now she worked for the Moretti family's legitimate businesses, managing their charitable foundation, helping others who'd been victimized by the powerful, turning her pain into purpose. As they left the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Mrs. Moretti, how do you feel about the verdict? Justice was served, Isabella said simply. Nobody should ever feel like they're less than human because they're serving someone wealthier. Nobody should suffer abuse in silence. And I hope this case sends a message that money doesn't make you untouchable. Decency and respect aren't optional. They're required. That night, Isabella and Luca stood on their penthouse balcony overlooking the city. It's beautiful, Isabella said softly. When you're not terrified of it. You're never going to be terrified again, Luca promised. Not while I'm breathing. Isabella turned to face him. I know what you are, she said. I know what your family does. I know the Moretti name means power and fear and things that happen in shadows. But Luca, when I needed protection, when I needed justice, you didn't hesitate. You used everything you had to make sure I was safe. To make sure he paid. So thank you. For being my monster when I needed one. Luca pulled her close. For you, amore mio, I'll be whatever you need. Monster. Protector. Husband. Destroyer. Whatever keeps you safe. They stood there holding each other while Manhattan glittered below them, a city that now knew what happened when you crossed the Moretti family. Preston Vale would spend 18 months in prison. His company was dead. His fortune gone. His name forever attached to one of the most viral assault videos in history. But more importantly, every wealthy person in that city now understood a fundamental truth. Money didn't make you untouchable. Power didn't make you immune. And if you forgot that everyone deserved dignity, if you thought cruelty was entertainment, there would be consequences. Real, permanent, devastating. Isabella had her justice. Luca had sent his message. If you believe that power should protect the vulnerable instead of crushing them, smash that subscribe button right now. Drop a comment telling me what you would have done in Isabella's position. Share this with everyone who needs to know that justice isn't just for the rich and powerful. This story proves that when you have someone who truly loves you, they'll burn the world down to protect you. Don't miss our next story.